Yes. Everywhere. Resolution, number 24-35, a resolution of the City of Normandy, Missouri, renewing liquor licenses for the 24-25 license year. So this is the liquor license that applications for Crazy Deals, St. Anne's, BP, and Wayland's that came in. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All in favor? Oh, second, sorry. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Resolution number 24-36, a resolution of the City of Normandy, Missouri, filling vacancies on planning and zoning. So we have Mr. Julian Roberts, who has graciously accepted to give his time to planning and zoning. And the other, since Mayor Beckman is now gone, I need to be assigned to fill his position on planning and zoning. So that's what this resolution does. Do I have a motion to approve? Oh, sorry.
Do we have to read it by?
Do we have to read the whole thing?
No, just title.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
All right. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Can we?
Can we have,
Just a second from
No.
Julian? Oh, I'm sorry.
you want to
Welcome to the
introduce
planning and
yourself to
zoning.
everyone and
Yeah.
just tell them who you are for the record?
Sure.
Doesn't have to be too much.
No, I was just
Yeah.
thinking. So I'm Julian Roberts. I lived in the community for 10 years in Winneco Park. I went to Bermuda Elementary, so I used to live on Skyview. Went to Ferguson, Florissant through Normandy, so I've been in Normandy for like almost over 20 plus years. I'm currently a student at cohort, a part of NLF, Neighborhood Leadership Fellowship, and it's just pretty much an organization that helps create policies and understanding the policies and legislation through neighborhood advocacy. So doing that, part of UMSL Extension, was part of UM Extension. Been at Enterprise for 15 years. I work in IT. I'm a software analyst. So my goal is just to be an advocate for a small village like Winneco Park and create, policies around zoning and planning and just kind of be a part and, kind of collaborate and also contribute.
Yeah, you understand this for the entire city of.
Yes, sorry, yes. I understand we incorporated or, we've merged since February, so, yes.
Awesome. I did NLF last
You did? Oh, okay, yeah, yes. That's nice.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Resolution number 24-37. A resolution authorizing the city administrator to enter into agreements with Municipal Park Grant Commission of St. Louis County and SWT Design for the creation of a Parkchester master plan.
Is that for the grant or is that for the plan? And
Yes, for the, Sam,
Yeah,
so this is for the plan, is that correct? The park?
yeah, okay, so this is very similar to our last resolution, except for it actually has formal agreements attached to them, because after the last meeting, I applied for the grant, and they sent us over a grant agreement, which means we got it. They're pretty informal, these planning grants. But basically, this would authorize me to enter into an agreement with the Municipal Park Grant Commission of St. Louis County. And then also, it would authorize you to enter into the agreement with SWT Design to create the master plan. And one of the key things that's in this is a firm scope of work in the SWT agreement, as well as the fee, which is $24,500. So with the $10,000 grant, we're on the hook for $14,500. And that's to create a master plan that will get cost estimates for everything we want to do at Parkchester Park. It will include 2 community planning sessions that they will help us host and gather community input about what's going to go into the park, as well as help us identify a plan to get funding. And this master plan application will be really essential to apply for grants down the line. to implement the park. And I'm hopeful that we can get anywhere between $600,000 to $1 million in grants for Parkchester Park. And the master plan is gonna be essential to that. Now, with all that said, Andy has identified a few problems that I wasn't able to have time to work out with the commission.
I wouldn't say problems, if I
Yeah.
can judge it. There are a few aspects of the park grants agreement that I would like to try to soften. It's pretty one-sided in favor of the commission. I would request that this resolution be amended so that section 1 read, "The city council hereby directs and authorizes the city administrator to negotiate and enter into an agreement with the Park Grant Commission," so that rather than approving the version as attached, we have a little wiggle room to try to, clean this up a little bit. That, being the Park Grant Commission, they may very well come back and say, if you want our money, and you sign this as it is, and that's what we'll do. I want to at least, I hope they're not listening to this right now. But I at least like to try to soften the language a little bit, so.
Yes.
Is everyone clear on my requested amendment?
Mhm.
So we'll just need a motion to amend.
Can I get a motion to amend to,
So
wait.
moved.
What are the-
You can make the motion, absolutely.
I make a motion to amend section 1 of the planning and zoning agreement to state, "The city council hereby directs and authorizes the city administrator to negotiate and enter into an agreement with the Municipal Park Grant Commission of St. Louis County as attached in Exhibit A."
So you'll need a second?
Second.
Yeah.
Then you can take a vote on that
Now I
motion.
can vote, not vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, so now do I do it?
Yeah, so if there's no other discussion or further amendments, and Sam, I don't know if you have anything else to discuss with them before I.
No, unless there's
Good job, I
questions.
apologize.
I do have a question, because you said it's gonna take $24,000?
That is the fee for SWT design, yes.
And we have to pay the 14,000?
Yeah, well, we'll pay the full $24,500, and then we will get $10,000 reimbursed. Yeah.
So where will the $14,000 come from?
It will come from the Parks and Stormwater Fund,
Oh, okay,
and I got it in our budget that we're about to talk about, so.
okay.
Yeah.
I did have a quick question, Sam. So I want to make sure I understand it.
Yeah.
I understand there's going to be needed a whole bunch of grants to kind of, because that's in pretty rough shape. Are they going to help us write the grants? Are they going to write the grants needed?
No, that is not part of this agreement, but the master plan is going to be an attachment to any grant that we submit.
Okay.
And
Okay.
because most grants will ask for a plan.
Okay.
And just to give you guys an idea of what grants we're talking about, one, construction grants with the Municipal Park Grant Commission, which are $350,000. If we can get, hopefully we can get 2 rounds, but I think it's a sure thing that we should be able to get at least 1 round. I'm interested in exploring things with Cool Valley because they have some potential connectivity to the park if they connect Bernhardt to the Ted Jones Trail. And then they would, so if they sign on, then that's another $60,000 because it knocks us up a tier. And then also there are plans through the Missouri Department, or grants through the Missouri Department of Conservation. One is a planning and design grant for $100,000. And then they have a light infrastructure grant, I think for $200,000, and a heavy infrastructure grant for $300,000. There's also I think it's called the Land and Water Grant. It's a federal grant. It's a 50-50 matching grant for parks. It's actually what we used to build wholesale parks in the 70s. And so there's lots of grant money out there for parks, and then we can use our current fund balance in the Parks and Stormwater Fund, which is relatively high compared to some of our other funds to match and get it done.
How much money is in that fund?
Well, we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but it's about 500,000.
Okay. So, these are reimbursement grants. When we got our grant in Glen Echo Park, of course, we had no $360 $5,000, and we couldn't come close to it, so we tried to get a couple of people. I mean, Normandy was gonna back us and then didn't, and then, so I just went through myself on the mercy of the park board and said, hey. So we were actually not made to reimburse, but we had to have, we did it in stages. So at one stage, then we, they get all the documentation that part was done. So if you can keep it in little chunks like that and make arrangements with them, you might not have to come up with the entire 300 or whatever the first chunk of money is gonna be. But again, that money in the parks, the parks fund could just be, it's a switch out. You just take your money, put it there and back and forth.
Right.
Any more
I'm good.
questions? Any more questions? Discussion? Can I get a motion to, wait, did I already do that? Do I start?
Motion to approve as amended.
Motion to approve as
This
amended?
question,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do we have a timeline on, utilizing the funds?
She said, is there a timeline on utilizing the funds?
For the planning grant, I'm not sure what's in the agreement, it's probably 1 year. And then I know the construction grants, which we're talking down the line, these are not grants we've applied for yet, but those have a 1-year timeline. And then I'm not sure what the Missouri Department of Conservation grants timelines are, but I assume they're similar.
yeah, so you'd have to get the money and start working right away. And then get it to whatever that first stage was, and then do it.
As far as the timeline for the city, if we can hopefully get the master plan wrapped up at the latest in February, then when it comes to applying for grants in the summer of next year, 2025, then we can talk about a construction grant and maybe a design grant from MDC in 2026.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Can I get a motion to approve resolution number 24-37 as amended?
Motion.
Second.
Any, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Number 4, approval of Natural Bridge Road median civil design proposal with Weiss Design Group. So this is the one that came in today, Sam?
Yeah.
This-
Is the design here?
So, this is a proposal to pay them to do the design. So right now, they've done a conceptual kind of idea, a proof of concept rendering for us about what the medians would look like. Again, we're taking them down to the normal curving and then putting in stamped concrete.
That's what-
Then they created a cost estimate for us. The cost estimate for the construction of the project is $143,000. And that would take care of everything from City Hall to Lucas and Hunt. And then this proposal is for them to draw up the specifications to put out to bid for that project. As well as do a little bit of construction management on the project.
Have we looked at comparable cost for fixing what's there?
I know that the cost just for ordering the cast stone and having it delivered, or maybe it didn't include delivery, for what had been hit in just from a single crack was about $15,000, and that was a few years ago. Cast stone is very, especially when you have curves in cast stone,
Right.
it's very expensive, you need lots of molds, and we only have one person who was willing to bid on it from Chicago.
Well, there's a person that also owned the actual mold.
Right, yeah.
So that was the other problem. The molds were not, they weren't made here. And so we would have to have it shipped from there. And then we had to basically have a discussion with MoDOT about because we were restricted to the design that was already there, and like how we would actually fix it so that it looks nice without breaking the bank, because we don't have that money, so.
How much money is in the economic development fund, which is what we're supposed to pay for that?
Yeah, because we just dissolved the TIF, it is also about $500,000, very similar to the amount in the Parks and Stormwater Fund.
And that's to go with the, how much does that tax generate annually?
Historically, it has generated about $80,000 a year, but now that we've dissolved the TIF, it's going to generate up to $110,000 a year.
Was it, I wasn't on the council at that point, but it was my understanding that that fund was specifically put in place to improve the look and to keep up, do the maintenance that was needed along Hatfield Bridge.
Well, one of the problems that happened in Natural Bridge is that we had several accidents, so.
Right.
Well, I can just answer that from a sustainability standpoint about the cast stone that's out there.
Yeah.
So, don't let the fund balance that we have fool you with the, we just dissolved the TIF, which meant that we got $469,000 that went into that fund.
Right.
Before that, the fund, at the beginning of this fiscal year that we're in right now, 2024, fund balance was at $74,000,
Okay.
right? And that's, you know, and we do have annual costs to pay the utilities, to keep the fountain up, and do some other things. So if we were to replace all the cast stone right now and continually replace it when it gets hit, or some of it is just getting old and scuffed up, it's not really sustainable. Now, our goal with this project is still to have a design that looks better than your normal highway, and is supposed to generate economic development, but it's one that a drunk driver doesn't cost the city
Can we
$15,000
see
to
it?
$20,000.
Can we see the design?
Yeah, I have concept. I don't have them here at the meeting. I can print some out right now if you want.
Yeah, I mean, because the whole concept of the great streets, and particularly that fountain area, was to create a sense of community and walkability and so forth. So, that's why I made us think about the color of that one building over there, because there's no uniformity, but there would be a possibility of doing more of that if we looked at that space as our city square, you know, and made it look a certain way and kept it looking a certain way, because it is what people see. The majority of people from the outside see when they're coming through Normandy. That wasn't only designed to slow the traffic down, but to create that sense of space and walkability and so forth. So I think that the aesthetics of the thing are important, and that we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater when we're trying to keep it looking nice. We need to have that. The other thing is the difference between a 6-inch curve and an 8-inch curve. I think probably 8 inches would be, what you're trying to do is to keep it.
It's whatever the MoDOT standard is. Yeah, whatever's out there right
Well, you can do
now.
higher than what their standard is. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. You could do an 8-inch curve rather than a 6, because it's gonna slow down whatever's going there just a little bit more. You know, the standard is what they wanted to do in the first place, but there were arguments about that, and there are some 8 inches around here. So I think that if indeed it's going to do what we want it to do, to look good, to create a sense of space that looks good and that people might want to hang out at. Although right now, the businesses along that they're not there. So we would have to get a different kind of some look, and try to get some people to come in there and to rent some of those open storefronts and to bring in some other kinds of things. The other thing I think that we need to look at long-term is the overall development, look and feel of what we want Natural Bridge to look like. And, you know, we don't want it to look trashy.
Well, this is just to take the medians that we
I know.
have, to take the dirt out and to put stamped concrete in it. And we also have like
So
what's the
what-
sewer,
what-
not the sewer system, but what is it? The irrigation system that is also broken. So like when I wrote the grant for the flowers at the circle,
Right,
it was only for the flowers, but when Missouri Department of Conservation came in, they said that basically we had to fix it to make the flowers live,
right.
which cost, just the circle cost was an additional $20,000 that they gave us just to fix that. The irrigation system actually goes the length of Natural Bridge, but the problem we come into is that we don't, well, when they were looking at it, we don't know where nobody knows where it stops because that information was not transferred properly to the next, guard and everything, or even how to
It's
fix it.
probably,
It's above ground and it's broken up.
Yeah, so then that's an issue, but then the overall look that we have, like with the stamped concrete, like it's raised, so that one that's right at Florissant Road, that has been basically like torn to shreds.
right.
With, it kind of at this point, because we also have the agreement with UMSL, it's kind of like, do you leave it like that, or do you try to build it back up over time with so like
But
this
if
is what,
you're to completely, that's what,
yeah. So, and then the other thing we
yeah,
have,
so it's gonna look pretty much like Del Mar in some places.
yeah, and then the other thing you have like closer to Natural Bridge and Lucas and Hunt, where people catch the bus. If you have people versus grass, people win every time because people walk in the grass and everything like that. So this gives it like a more uniform look, but it's also, the stamped concrete gives it kind of like a more decorative look, but without the hassle of,
Slow maintenance.
yeah. It's the lowest maintenance and
Well, yeah, I mean, I know it's
visually
low,
appealing.
low
visually
maintenance, but-
visually appealing,
And that's a
Yeah.
matter of taste, and, yeah,
I will say the only thing, after speaking to MoDOT, the black bollards that you see there, MoDOT is not, they've already told us they're not going to allow those. So it would
the
be more or
black,
less just the signs, that's the only thing. That'd be up.
oh, yeah, see. And that's gonna be all the way to Umsel? Are you gonna take out all of it?
City Hall,
to see how.
to, and we can, I mean, there's different options. We don't have to fill in all of them if we don't want to,
We
but
can do just the circle and then worry about the rest of it later and everything. So this bid is for
this is for everything.
everything, yeah.
Regularly, the price came in,
I was surprised how
with
low
something
it
that we
was.
can, something we can afford.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at urban living and the importance of green spaces, and that is something that affects people's attitudes, it makes them happier. Green spaces make people happier. And so, part of what we wanna do is not to tear out everything that is attractive. I think the fact that some of those beds could be planted differently, yeah, are they gonna require work to keep them up? Yes. But just tearing it all out, I think would be a terrible mistake. It's just my opinion, I got one vote.
Any other comments?
No.
I have a question there, and
or even the colder
Are
months.
you talking about at the circle, or
No, in natural, at the circle.
there's a shelter in front of, there's a shelter in front of Afro World, which bus stop?
Well, I'm thinking of, both or either one, that we could put one there, a decorative one that's structured, that won't be torn up so fast.
I'm not completely sure at the exact location you're talking about,
Well, there's one, isn't
but I
there?
know that that Bi-State has one right in front of
Yeah,
Afro
that's the one
World.
that they have that looks kinda shabby.
I'm not sure, and that's something,
Victoria,
Uh-huh.
are you visualizing the, location that I'm speaking of?
I'm thinking, are you talking about the one at Natural Bridge and Lucas and Hunt?
Correct.
Yeah, that actually.
oh, right at the corner across from the
Right,
Crazy
right.
Deals?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that one, I think what we might wanna do is to reach out to the bus company, what do they call it, Metro?
Yeah, but I
and-
said Bi-State.
yeah.
That's how old I am.
And see, because I remember reading somewhere that they were picking out certain locations that they might want
Wanna
to
put
put
shelters.
some shelters in, and, cause I know there used to be one on, right across the street from Umsel there, it's kind of an aluminum thing, but that's been there for a long time. So let's start, I'll see if we can get a contact, and see what they might wanna be able to do over there.
I think that would be a good, project if you guys wanna
Yeah.
take that on, you and, Councilwoman,
Shivers, yeah.
Valet, Ms.
Yeah.
Shivers.
Yeah, I'll talk to you, Ms. Shivers.
Okay,
All right.
okay, sounds good, thank you.
It's a good idea. What am I doing? I'm lost now.
So we were at, a
Still more
resolution.
discussion. Any more discussion? What am I doing now?
We would need a motion to authorize the city administrator to sign our proposal,
Oh,
or enter into the,
so there's no resolution number, just approval?
no, it was the last minute addition, so we don't have a resolution.
Do I need one?
No,
No?
it can just be a motion.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve approval of the Natural Bridge median civil design proposal from Weiss's Design Group, and for the city administrator to enter into an agreement for the project?
Make a motion.
Second,
Second.
do I need a roll call vote, or just, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No,
Ayes have it.
Well, yeah, right,
Yes, right.
yes.
All right, number. Okay, number 5. So, the budget talks. So attached to your packet,
excuse me.
near
This is a workshop. I think these folks want to say something, but they don't.
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is just like a working, where we just talk about like the budget and everything. So the comment section that we have, or the citizen comments, come on a regular, council meeting, which would be August the 13th. So like this sec- No, you can come and, we're basically working and you're watching us work and hearing what we're saying.
Okay,
Yeah.
what's the agenda? Where's, I see y'all going page by page.
Do we
Where's
have-
that at?
Oh.
Can we get a copy of that, see what that is?
Sure, we have.
You
There you go.
usually I'm not even in town, so I can't really come to these, so this is my first time. So I don't really know what your procedure is. I bring you one.
Oh,
Yeah, I got you, Kelly.
but thank you, I appreciate
Yes, man, now you move fast with me. You got mine. Yeah, you remind me then, yeah.
it. Right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so sorry for that. You're basically watching us work. And so like when we have our next meeting, whatever we're talking about or discussing here, you can come up and say like, I heard you guys say at this meeting that you guys wanted to spend money on this. So this is our budget workshop, like I have like ideas or I would like the money.
This is an important
And
one to
everything.
be
So you're seeing what we, I guess like how to
You
sausage.
seeing how you spend the money?
Yeah,
Is
basically.
that what we
We're gonna
talking
talk
about here?
about it. We're gonna talk about the overall, fiscal health of the city and like what we see happening for next year and, what happened last year and everything and where we see our money should be spent or projects we have and things like that. And so,
If we want
and
to
so,
comment,
okay.
we need to write it down.
You can write it down and then when you come on Tuesday, because on Tuesday we have the beginning and the end, we have citizen comments on both sections. But this isn't just one workshop, this is gonna take a while. So this is,
But this would you guys do?
right, so if you go to page, well, it's after, you gotta go in the middle. You see where it says Weiss Design Group, and then it says page 1 of 27? This is that's where we are now, right here.
Okay, thank
Say
you.
1 to 27, great.
Do you know if I can drive too? I'm sorry.
Is that? Yeah, just, let me take that.
Thank you so much.
1 to 27, great.
So where am I?
You want me to just start going?
Oh, so this is the budget talk. So there were a few things, with the operating costs that have had huge effects on our budget, and Sam has done his due diligence in slashing where he can, as much as he can, and he is going to talk about that. But as we all know, we've had lawsuits and insurance is high, and there are other factors that are basically causing us to show a deficit, but we do have a healthy reserve. So Sam, I'm gonna let you take it away.
Yeah, so thank you. This is the first draft of the budget. I'm happy to present to you. We have an operating budget this year, and then also for the first time, honestly, I don't know when, but we also have a first draft of a 5-year capital improvement plan to present to the city council. So it's a lot to go through, but I'll just kind of go broadly over the larger points here. Again, the fiscal year ends on September 30th, so that's when we would need to pass the budget by without having to do an extension or anything like that. So we have this first workshop. We will bring it to the regular meeting for a first reading. We will have the August workshop to kind of iron things out. Then ideally, it could be passed at the September regular meeting, although in the past, if we need to push it to the September workshop for final numbers, or even have a special meeting in September, we've done that sometimes as well. But it's early, we're early enough along, if everything goes smoothly, we should be able to pass it at the September meeting ahead of the end of the fiscal year. So, with that said, as Yolanda kind of mentioned, again, same as the current fiscal year 2024, the largest problem that the city is facing right now is high insurance premiums. And this has to do with several lawsuits that have been settled in the past 5 years. Most notably was Davis v. Normandy, which was the Arch City Defenders case. There were similar cases against Florissant, Jennings, and St. Anne. That settled, it was a class action that settled for about $1.3 million. We had several employment practices lawsuits. We had some lawsuits with our sanitation trucks as well. And so overall, our loss run, if you're sitting from the insurance carrier side of things, is not good, and they paid out a lot of money that we did not have to pay out front, but now they are recouping their losses. And I'll just say very briefly, we're currently working with our broker to see if we can get a new quote for our insurance and hopefully avoid continued high premiums. However, at this point, there's still a good chance that we'll be stuck with similar or slightly higher premiums than this current year. Another factor that's going on is the insurance market just generally, and this applies to all insurances, is what they call a hard market. And so even people with loss runs that are quite good, they're seeing 10 to 20% increases. So with our extremely large increase last year, which was an increase of about $350,000, if we see that, if that trend continues, we're going to have a very tight budget, and it is going to affect the level of service that we can provide, at least for the time being. The good news is, if we control our risk, and the premiums will eventually go back down, and we can provide the level of service that we want to and our residents deserve. But that is the biggest problem that we're facing with the budget year, and that mostly affects operating costs. So just generally, I'll start with revenues. Some highlights with revenues compared to the previous fiscal year. I budgeted quite modest increases in utilities and sales tax. I believe these are budgeted at 3%, given recent inflation. I don't think that's unreasonable, and so there is some increase there. But however, compared to last year, we are expected to see a lot less revenue coming in from building permit fees. We had quite a bit of a large building permit for the USDA building next door. However, I don't anticipate any large building permits like that coming in next year. So we're going to see a decline of about $130,000 in the permit category of our revenues. Additionally, fines and court costs. I expect that we'll see a slight increase, especially if we can keep our traffic cars staffed in the police department. However, historically for Normandy, it is quite down from what it's used to be, but it has recovered some from the pandemic in 2020. And then, so generally, when we're looking at our revenues, we are looking at a decrease in revenue for the city compared to last year. And that has to do with the reduction of the one-time kind of windfalls that we received from the extremely large building permit, as well as a few other things in there as well. So overall, this budget projects about a $30,000 decrease in revenue from the previous year. Now, with the decrease in revenue, we've done what we can to cut back in all the departments in the general fund. Now, for the next part of the budget, you have your different major departments. So on page 3, you have the administration department, which is basically the stuff that we do up here at City Hall. And following that, you have 4 pages just kind of doing a detailed breakdown of what each line item is made up of. This breakdown won't make it into the final budget. However, it is for the budget workshop to kind of show our work about what each line item is made up of. And then you have a very similar type of situation with public safety, which is our police department, and public works as well. You have a detailed outline of what each line item is made up of. Now, as I speak broadly about the departments, I'll just ask everyone to turn to page 21. which is kind of just a broad summary overview of the budget. And you can see the projected expenditures from last year to the proposed budget for 2025. In the expenditure summary, you'll see that in every department except for the prosecuting attorney, which is an increase of $2,000, we are proposing cutbacks. Now, in each department, it looks a little different on what those are. For instance, in the administration, Kiana has been able to train enough with some of the accounting functions that we don't use accounting consultants near as much as we used to before Kiana was brought on. So that is a significant cost savings. Also additionally, there's been a position that's been frozen for a few months now for a part-time receptionist. This budget keeps that position frozen, which means that we may have to return more calls than we do. We may have to, listen to voicemails and return calls than being able to pick up the phone the first time it rings. So that's something where the level of service that we're able to offer is suffering because of the state of the financials, right?
How much was budgeted for that position?
It would cost about $20,000 for a part-time receptionist. $26,000, sorry. Depends on how many hours they would work.
Gotcha.
Same thing with the police department. There are several unfilled positions. And that more has to do with the market, the labor market for police work. It's very hard to get police officers. It's very competitive. And there are other departments which are paying $70,000 and $80,000 for just a standard police officer, and we pay $52,000. So we have several unfilled positions. This budget assumes that those positions will remain unfilled for most of the year, as well as some cuts to operations, looking at where we can save about potentially downsizing our fleet, which is currently pretty stocked with some older vehicles, and some other operational costs that Chief Sanders was able to propose. In courts, very similar to the administration department, they currently, we have staffing of 2 full-time employees, and they do have issues keeping up with the court cases because of our contract municipalities as well as our caseload. And they requested an additional part-time employee. However, with the budget, it's hard to see how that's going to be able to happen. So again, doing what we can to save money. And then same thing in public works, saving where we can with operational costs, and also looking at summer help as opposed to a year-round position as well. So overall, one moment. The proposed budget here has a proposed the deficit in it right now is $115,000 for the budget. Now, there's a couple things to keep in mind with that. Right now, we currently have litigation against Simmons Bank. I was talking with Andy earlier. Right now, we have a placeholder budget for the litigation of about $45,000 for this next fiscal year to keep that case in litigation and hopefully go to the end. Now, I obviously think that is money well spent, especially given the details of the case. However, that is a cost that is something that we're more or less dipping into reserves to pay for. Similar situation going on with some drug asset forfeiture money that the police department has received because of federal regulations with that money. we have to spend that on money that are not operating costs. If you do that, they call it supplementation, and they will seize the money back. So, there's about $30,000 in there regarding that, that we need to spend on stuff that's not operating. And so we've built up a reserve of this drug money over the past 4 years, and now we need to spend that money. And so that's going to reflect as deficit spending. Overall, because of the fiscal year 2023, we actually had a surplus of $442,000, as well as previous years. Our fund balance actually isn't in a terrible spot right now. It's about $1.5 million for our annual operating budget. That's usually around $4 million. So the $115,000 deficit is less than it's about a 1.5% deficit overall. I will tell you, for the past 2 weeks, I've been skimming over and over, seeing where we can save, and been talking with folks and, trying to make those decisions, some of which are not necessarily comfortable decisions. Obviously, we want to have a fully staffed city and provide a great level of service to our residents and be able to keep our employees happy. But when it comes to matters of austerity and financial responsibility to the citizens, we have to do what we can to save. So that's the general fund operating budget. Now, for the restricted funds and the capital improvement funds, which I'll talk about next, the picture is not as bleak. Those are restricted funds, and they are not facing the same pressures with insurance as the general fund. And then also, just because I don't think I mentioned it, it's not just liability insurance. When we talk about the hard market for insurance, our health insurance for our employees also, we just got a renewal on Monday, quote, it's going up 10%, which is a significant cost. That 10% increase is about $40,000 for the city. So the pressures in the insurance market, as well as some other places in the market, they're increasing at a faster rate than our taxes are increasing. Now, like I said, if we can get our premiums under control our risk, things should normalize and go back, and we can provide the level of service that we want to. This is something that we can get out of in the next 2 to 3 years, right? But right now, that's what we're facing. So before I move on to any of the other funds, I'd be happy to answer any questions about the general fund.
In terms of revenue, sales tax, why is that number proposed for 2025 so high compared to the other years?
You're talking about,
On page 22 of 27.
Oh, that's capital improvement.
oh yes,
He's
capital
talking about
improvement. So I will talk about that in a second, but
the- We wanted to do the general.
on the general fund,
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. That's some of the good news that we have to talk about.
okay.
I have a question, Mr. Johnson, this is Shivers.
Yes.
Back to the police, how many police officers does Normandy, or just, I know other municipalities, I've spoken with, the, mayor of, 4 municipalities. How many police officers
Okay,
What are you,
I think I can answer some of those questions.
Or anybody else that work, it's just so many overtime hours that you can work without you, not being in compliance.
Yeah, okay, I'll start off by saying, I really have no idea what you mean by compliance. But I will say, providing the minimal level of service that we need to our communities as well as our contract cities, we are not, we are, I'm not going to tell you that we're not running short. We are running short in the police department. However, we're not running into any issues where it's an officer safety concern or that we're not able to meet our contractual obligations or provide for the general safety.
what exactly do you,
public.
what exactly do you mean by compliance?
Well, being in, I worked in compliance for 18 years overall and being in compliance means, with what I'm speaking of, the police department, you're only allocated to work so many hours before you're timed out. So that you're not
Yeah.
overly tired, you make decisions that.
Yeah, Ms. Shivers, we are not, we're nowhere close to that. Our officers work 12-hour shifts, on,
Okay, now, I did hear, Tamika say they had been working 16 hours.
right, and if you let me continue, there are some,
That is being out of compliance.
no, it's not.
Well, that's,
She did say that.
that's not everybody working, but that's not, I'm kind of thinking that you're saying like everybody is working 16 hours every day instead of, is
No.
that what you're saying?
No, the normal shift is 12 hours and that, 9 times out of 10 is what happens. On occasion, someone may have to stay over a few hours until they're relieved, or if they have to go to court or something. But as far as, that's really not a concern. Trust me, I see the time cards every, 2 weeks. And Kiana's over here next to me, she sees them as well. It's not, whatever, idea you have of what's going on, I assure you it's really not like that.
And we just received.
As far as overtime, there are certain overtime details that we do offer, in which we pay overtime out. Right now, overtime in this budget is budgeted at $30,000 for the entire year. Also,
No, I'm not just speaking of the budget, Mr. Johnson.
well, that's what we're here to talk about.
What I'm asking is, how many, with the police officers, how many police officers, first of all, do we have? How many police officers are working 16 hours plus a night or day to cover the police officers?
Yeah,
Well-
I'll answer that question. I'll answer it. We do not regularly have people working 16-hour shifts. Just flat out, I can answer that. As far as officers, in this budget, we have a proposed 24 full-time positions. That includes administrative staff and the detective bureau. That's what's budgeted. Right now, we have 21 officers, don't let me speak too quick. We have 20 officers, right? So we have 4 unfilled positions. Okay, so does that was your question? So.
Right,
there's the
and
answer.
then how many are working, 16 hours?
And I answered that, none on a regular basis.
Can I say something here? I think, Ms. Shivers, what you heard was, Tamika was talking about a particular night when there was a hostage situation and they had to be on deck a whole lot longer than and I think she was talking about herself, that she had been up all night and she was tired, but that was a very unusual circumstance and she's the chief. So it's kind of, on her.
And she's also salaried, so
Right.
that's different.
But no, there's,
Let me go back officers that were standing there with her when Mayor Beckman was there for his ceremony, that her and the other two officers, they worked our shifts.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Again, it was an unusual circumstance. We had
Listen,
it.
So let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's do this. I don't want to put words into Officer into Captain Sanders's or Chief Sanders's mouth.
Can I hear Mr. Johnson's reply, please, before you cut me off? Go ahead, Mr. Johnson, and
No, wait. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop you right there. I think we're getting off topic. So
no, we're not.
I think we're getting off topic, and we're talking about We're talking about something.
We're not getting off topic.
This is what we're gonna do. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna wait for
Chair, you can rule your members out of
I
order.
just want to hear Mr. Johnson's reply.
right now.
What is your reply?
Right now, Councilwoman Shivers, this is what we're gonna do. We are going to ask, do you have a question about the general fund, about these numbers?
Right.
And then what we can do later, when Sanders is actually here, she can address that question, and she can.
Because I have it. I'm asking.
Okay, so now we're moving on. Does anyone else have any questions about the fund? No. Okay, so now we're moving on, and this part of the discussion is over. We're gonna move on to the capital improvement fund. Go ahead, Sam.
All right, to answer Councilwoman Valle's question from earlier about why is the sales tax for the capital improvement fund so much higher than previous years, as some of you may recall, in April, we brought an ordinance to the council asking the Department of Revenue to switch us to a option 1 city to an option 2 city. This was a decision that Normandy had made in 1996, basically to collect our capital improvement tax within the district of Normandy and pay 15% into a pool that goes into St. Louis County. We are switching into that pool, so that way when you buy something in Chesterfield, they actually pay 15% into this pool that then gets split up amongst municipalities in the pool. So I don't know why they picked option 1 in 1996 or why it took so long to switch, but the change means that we'll go from producing it would have been about $80,000 in capital improvement sales tax just from the sales tax generated here in Normandy to being in the pool based on population. My current projections have it about 33, or that number there, 336,000. And so that's gonna make a significant difference, as well as we did have a little bit of, I had $49,000 paid from the dissolution of the TIF, and the TIF dissolution also affects this as well. So, rather than just address the capital improvement fund, I'm actually gonna ask to jump around and talk about the capital improvement 5-year plan. So, this is actually right after the page numbers stop. So after page 27 there, you'll see a spreadsheet titled City of Normandy, Missouri 5-Year Capital Improvement Program. And you'll see capital purchases planned out between 2025, which is next fiscal year, and 2029. So how these plans work is it allows us to look 5 years in the future and look at what our capital needs are and start planning. So 2026 to 2029 are not commitments, right? They're estimates and projections. It's just a plan, right? 2025 lines up with the operating budget, and that is what we're budgeting. So we see something in 2029. When we get to 2029, that year may look completely different, right? But as we get closer to 2025, 2026, that's where we're kind of forming the plan and making it more concrete. So because we haven't had this capital improvement sales tax, as it was much smaller in the past, we do have quite a bit of catch up to play on some of our capital needs. So you'll see here, and also the capital improvement plan is not just for the capital improvement budget, it actually encompasses all the funds of the city. So you'll see here the project name, the revenue source, whether it's gonna come from reserve balances, current revenue, or grants, and then what fund, and that's the primary revenue source, because some are made up of multiple. And then you'll see the fund that's coming from. So just, for example, the one at the very bottom of the list, it's a street, or sorry, I'm not gonna do that one. I'm at the very top of the list, equipment repairs. We have some equipment repairs in Public Works, for our water trailer and our limb chipper. It's gonna be paid for out of current revenue in the capital improvement fund. The estimated project cost is $38,000, and that is the budget request. So if you flip to 3 pages after that, you'll see a page that looks like this, and you'll see more details about the project. Now, this is a pretty straightforward project, so there's really not much to it, but you'll see the project description, a spot to justify it, and then a place for the cost. And depending on how complicated the project is, this page might be quite filled out. The other part of the capital improvement plan is the 2 pages before that, which is titled Projected Revenues, Expenditures, and Fund Balances. And this lets us track the fund balances over the next 5 years. That way, we make sure that we stay basically in the black with these planned capital improvement projects. So for instance, in the capital improvement fund, you'll see in 2025, at the end of 2025, we expect to have, if we implement this plan, we'd have 48,000. At the end of 2026, we'd go to 202,000. When we go to 305,000, then we would spend everything we saved up and go back down to 58,000. Yeah.
Where are you looking at?
Sorry, this is on the second page, and so that bottom line. So, yeah, no.
This one?
Yeah, yeah.
Because
that one.
Stephen, I was kind of trying to figure out where you.
I'm sorry, I should have numbered these pages, but
That's
I
okay.
didn't.
I think you.
Again, this is the first draft. We'll polish it up a little bit.
So are we looking at these blue and white pages? Or are we looking?
No, right before that,
Oh, okay, yeah.
there's 2 pages, both are titled Projected Revenues, Expenditures, and Fund Balances.
Okay, gotcha.
And you can see each fund, and you can see how the fund balances are going to change over the years. So, for instance, in the capital improvement fund, at the end of 2029, if we implement this plan, we'll have $5,000 left, which basically means we've planned out the money,
Okay, gotcha.
and there's really nothing left to spend unless we want to take a project out. As well as this helps us allocate, like, does this project need to wait another year until we can afford it, or can we afford it now? And the same thing with parks and stormwater, where we can plan out projects like the Parkchester Park improvements, and same thing for economic development and the street improvement fund as well. So, just to kind of go back to the big picture, I'll actually talk about the projects that we're talking about. One was the one we just talked about earlier in the meeting, natural bridge improvements. This is, so we're back to this first page.
Okay,
Here.
that's good page, okay.
Yeah, natural bridge improvements, this is to fill in with the stamped concrete. It would be about $164,000 is what we have budgeted based off the cost estimate. And then in future years, we have projects replacing street lights that have been hit and haven't been replaced, as well as some other maintenance items to keep it looking nice. We do have the LEFAC in here right now, which is budgeted replacement, and the number may change on that one, but what's the state of our current LEFAC, Dennis?
It needs major work
So this, you know, leaf vac service is a service that we, our citizens seem to really like. However, we do need to plan to replace the equipment that makes it possible.
I asked you that question, are we gonna start doing that again? To leave back, that's up to.
If we can budget it to either repair the current system or replace it, then we can continue it, right? I'll tell you the $65,000 quote, we got an update before the meeting that's not quite the right machine. That would be actually quite a downgrade to what we have right now. So now we're looking into what a bigger machine would cost or what it would take to repair our machine, or if that's worth doing.
Because the reason I'm asking that question, because is this gonna be all year round, or is this gonna be just for the fall? Because right now, I speak for me, I'm used to bagging everything that we do, instead of dumping it out in the front.
Yeah.
So I just don't wanna confuse.
I know it's been a problem the past few years.
Yeah.
2 years ago, it was a capital problem. We didn't have a truck big enough to pull the leaf back. Last year, it was a labor problem. We didn't have a big enough crew or, we just didn't have a big enough crew to do it. If we either get a new leaf back or repair the old one, then we shouldn't have either of those problems this year, because we've got the crew right now.
Yeah, I just don't wanna confuse, I mean, I don't know, I'm just thinking.
Because we also voted to discontinue it because.
Well, that was the Lynn chip.
Oh, the.
Yeah.
But we need, if we keep going back and forth like. this,
Yeah, I
people
just
are
think
gonna
people
get
just need to go and bag their leaves and put them, I mean, it's gonna confuse them, because I know that certain wards like the service,
Yeah.
but if we could continue, we just say we're not going to do this anymore, if we can save some money not to get that fixed, because if it breaks down, if you don't do it, then we have another problem. It's gonna
Right.
be more phone calls than what happened to the
Well,
bank.
for instance,
A new leaf vac, just like we have right now, self-contained, 24 yards, is $150,000 to $175,000.
right, so that was the revised number that,
And this
the board created.
$65,000 number is basically, if you've seen us do limb chipping, it looks like that, and it shoots into the back of our truck, which means that every place we go, every car that's in the neighborhood, every house that's in the neighborhood is gonna be covered with leaves.
yeah, we would have to figure out, we'd have to modify our truck.
Yeah, it's
To make that work.
buying the cheaper leaf vac. It would be my recommendation not to buy the cheaper one, but to do the service the way we're used to it when the leaf vac is working. We're talking in the end probably $175,000. And even if we spend the $10,000, $5,000 to $10,000 to repair what we've got now again, that leaf chipper is plus 20 years old. I mean, leaf vac is, it's plus 20 years old. Odds of it breaking down are pretty good again. You know, it may work like it did last year. We had several weeks of it working, and we got a lot of work done, and then it
Yeah,
shot it
I
again.
just don't want to confuse our constituents anymore. I mean, either we're gonna have waste management pick them up versus Normandy, because you already know when it breaks down, they're gonna go crazy.
I like the idea of just having waste management do
Cause that's what
their
they're
full
paid, that's what they're
service.
getting paid
That's
to do.
That's
Yeah.
part of their service.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
granted,
yeah.
that gives me, that instead of me spending 3, 4, 5 weeks of leaf vacuuming, those guys can be doing other jobs that, you know, getting the signs up like we're
Yeah.
doing, you know, whatever the project is.
right.
So, self-serving, I like that idea, but it's not my, you know, I'll do whatever.
I would love to have mine vacuumed, so I have to pay for bags, but when you don't do it, it just sits in front of my house and kids are kicking them all over the place, and then you got to scoop it up and put it in the bag. I don't know, I mean,
Well,
I
I
like
hate-
the idea, but
I
if
hate
it's,
telling people we're gonna do it, and then we start,
yeah,
and then we can't do it for 2 or 3 months, and then we may not get to do it at all because we thought it was a $5,000 fix and it's a $15,000 fix.
Yeah.
Is there a limit on Waste Management picking up the number of bags a week?
It's something
They
like
do six.
12 bags. Or
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll continually pick it up.
Yeah.
If you put the bags out there, they'll pick it up.
Yeah, and sometimes I've seen people do, if nobody else has bags out, and you have a bunch of bags out, they will take it because it's like only a few people. It kind of also depends on the driver. I've seen people, you know,
Well, I get them from my front and back, and I probably put, if I had to do bags, I was doing 40, 45 at a whack between the front tree and the back tree that I don't have in my yard. So I'm just saying, as long as there's not a major limit, it doesn't affect me. I'll do the work. The work doesn't bother me, as long as they're gonna pick them up if I do the work.
The clarity to the citizens is huge.
Again, the differences for Glen Echo Park, it has a different contractor right now. And we need, whenever we're having these discussions, to make sure that, all the folks in the historic Glen Echo know what's going on and know how, this is a temporary situation for us with Republic. Republic will allow us to mark an old trash can with an X, and you can put the stuff in the trash can, they'll pick it up. So I had a trash can, a big one, 64-gallon one full of yard waste, and then 2 additional bags, and they picked those up, so.
Yeah, so, kind of back to the budget picture of it, if it's a service we want to offer, we want to have consistent, we need to look into a new machine. And it's higher than the number in this first draft here, so then we're gonna have to look at what projects would be we willing to cut or delay, right? Moving on to the message board, which is something some people have talked about. This would be for an electronic messaging board in front of City Hall. We're still working on the details of what that would look like, but depending on how basic or how nice we want the message board, it could range from a really small one for $12,000 or a really nice one for like $50,000, right? So we're still working out some of the details there. But if one of the complaints is people don't know what's going on, if we have an electronic sign on Natural Bridge, then they get the word out a little more, is the idea. Parkchester Park, this kind of plans out some of the grants that we were talking about earlier, and some of the expenditures. So we're talking about spending, nearly $1 million in Parkchester Park, most of which will be reimbursed by 90% reimbursement grants, hopefully. We've got some maintenance at a park building in Hillsville Park. We've got our parking lot here at City Hall, which is in pretty rough shape. That's for year 2026. Hopefully we can make it another 2 winters here and then get it replaced. Some routine maintenance stuff with some HVAC at Public Works. The Sinclair building is on here. What do we want to do with the Sinclair building? We do have a document storage kind of problem here at City Hall. We really don't have a lot of space. And so if we can get a climate control system in at Sinclair Station, the roof is good, we may be able to make something work for a document. If we can secure it and do a few upgrades, that may be a possibility. So that's talking about later on down the line.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Is that just a shell of a building? Can I meant to ask you about that?
When you go inside, it is like an old school service station.
Okay.
So you've got kind of like a little mini gas station on one side with a soda machine, and then you've got a garage, a 2-car
It's inside
truck
that building?
garage, yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't
So
know that.
Does it still have the lifts in there?
it's still got lifts in there,
Yeah.
but the garage doors have been boarded over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got restrooms.
So as far as you look on the outside, you're like, I don't really know what it looks like in there. There has been virtually no updates to the indoors. So, it still just looks like a,
I thought there would be
So
a
it's
good
kind of-
substation for the police officers too. but-
and I think that was the original plan, and I wish they had a capital improvement plan that we could go back and look at.
Yeah.
But there are, you know, concerns with Missouri State Highway Patrol. It could be, like, we could put a desk in there, right? But, I mean, that's something that we can look into if the council's interested. There's a few upgrades at the, that are requested a couple of years from now at the Public Works lot. Just some kind of maintenance items. There's a line item for building demolition in here. We do have some decaying homes in Normandy, some of which are dangerous. The owners aren't going to knock them down. If we want to go in, we can declare a dangerous building and destroy it. Historically, we have used grant funds for blight abatement. However, if we want to use our grant funds for home improvement or roads or any other program, then we need to find revenue from somewhere else to you know, make those buildings safe and get them down. Mower replacements out of the Parks and Stormwater Fund, the Public Works fleet, having a, and this is gonna be the nicest thing, in Public Works and Police Department, there has not been a regular plan to really replace the fleet items because the capital improvement tax has been so low in previous years. Now that we have a good fund base, we can actually do regular replacement and not just ride vehicles until they, you know, die, right?
That would include, if needed, repairs on this building?
I was talking about the fleet.
I know that.
But the capital improvement, yes, and that's something that's not on here, and
The roof.
it may be worth a study, like a facility study on this building to see what needs to be done. But that's not done at this point, and something we can talk about in the future. But for Public Works, we're talking about replacing a vehicle every other year. And then in the police department, we're talking about replacing 2 vehicles a year in the police department.
One of the oldest vehicles that we have in the police force?
In the police force, we currently have a 2016 that's been used as an admin car to get around town.
Right,
As far as the patrol, I think we have a couple 2018s, and they are over 100,000 miles,
yeah.
so they need to be replaced. And we also have some 2023s as well. I mean, it's not all old.
Right.
But we need to keep it fresh. And here's a body worn camera. We submitted a grant yesterday. Hopefully we get it. It's a 50-50 matching grant, reimbursement grant. So we got a quote to basically have body cameras for everyone in the patrol division. It would be $104,000, so we would get reimbursed $52,000. That's something that I personally am very interested in. I know the police are as well. The officers actually want body cameras.
Yeah.
Complaints seem to go down when a camera's rolling. That's in here. And then we have street projects. This is something that I would like the council's input on. We have, you know, I promise to use the Glen Echo funds to, the remaining Glen Echo funds that they brought over, use them in Glen Echo, particularly around the streets. So, of those funds, after a few items that they came in with, there's about $72,000 are still sitting in there, so a $72,000 street resurfacing project in Glen Echo. That's not gonna get the whole village done, but it can make some improvements. Whether it's Henderson or St. Andrews is something that we can decide closer to
I
time.
think St. Andrews is in a whole lot worse shape than.
I think so as well, yeah. You'll see Normandy Heights, which is in Ward 3. We got that in 2029 right now, so that's pretty far out, but we do have some pretty rough streets. St. Anne, Marietta, Circle, and Augusta even. So that's in 2029. Then we have the Norwood Manor resurfacing project. So this is the Norwood Manor neighborhood. It's our largest subdivision. If we were just to repave it all as one project, like today, the estimated project cost would be about $940,000. I think is what it is, because it is quite a bit of lane mile in there. So this would break it up into 2 phases, a smaller phase right now, and then finishing up the rest in 2028 after saving up a little bit. And then also Bermuda Court, we have a grant in with the Community Development Block Grant to resurface Bermuda Court right now.
Is there any consideration of the possibility of income from the TDD?
Yeah,
We would
not in this current plan,
Right,
but I'll tell you, if like that gets on the April ballot and it passes,
Yeah, I'll take it.
then we can slide that right in and we can shift around this plan, next year's plan and get more streets done.
great.
If it did pass, it would, last numbers I saw would be about $132,000 a year for Normandy extra.
Not bad.
Yeah, it's like a cul-de-sac, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, Mr. Johnson.
Yes,
I wanted to, reiterate about the signs. We have right there on Bermuda and Springdale where the stop sign is. We have a hole there that's getting wider and deeper. And I'm just so afraid that when the, students come and catch the bus or get off the bus, that someone is gonna be severely hurt out there.
Is this a pothole or a hole in someone's yard?
It's just an enormous hole.
Is it a pothole or a hole in someone's yard?
No, it's on, Normandy Street, right there where the stop sign is.
I think I know what she's talking about.
What corner is this, Miss
We
Schiller?
drove down that street.
Springdale and Bermuda.
Greendale, what state again? Springdale?
Springdale and
Yeah.
Bermuda.
Well, it turns out to.
You turn around.
Yeah, it goes down to Florissant.
Yeah, I know, I gotta
Where
drive
the
by.
curve is?
Yeah, and then you curve right there, you keep
Yeah.
going
Right there where the
Yeah.
curve is.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so it's a pothole. I think I know what she's talking about. So it's a pothole.
Is that where the telephone pole was taken down?
Is that where the telephone pole was taken down?
Okay, you know when you first started, Mr. Yarborough, you
Is,
put, another worker put up, the new stop sign there, that's where it is.
It's on the curb? It's like when you
Is
turn
she
it
talking
on.
in the dirt?
Right on the curb.
No, she said the street. She said it's in the
Street.
street. It's a pot, like a pothole. The street?
we can check it out
Yeah,
tomorrow.
you'll check it out.
I'll drive by it tonight when we get done here, cause I really don't know what she's
But
talking
it
about.
says Springdale and Bermuda, right?
It really needs to be repaired, somebody's gonna get hurt there.
Yeah, we can check.
It's getting
You'll check it out.
wider and deeper.
Okay, we're gonna check it, but Springdale and Bermuda by the stop sign, right?
It's right there at the stop sign.
At the stop sign. Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Thank
that
you.
stop sign, yeah.
Okay.
So again, I believe everyone has a copy of the street report. There were a few subdivisions that were rated quite low. All of these came from all of these subdivision projects were rated 3.5 or below, which is like borderline failure. These streets that need attention as soon as we can get to it. But there are other streets that we could swap out if it's up to the council, but we gotta start somewhere, and so if there's a different street, or a different set of streets, that we wanna swap out or consider something else for, just, we can bring it up or you can shoot me an email and we can talk about it at the next meeting. or
But
the
can I
next
ask you a
meeting.
quick question? Because I know the streets in Norwood Manor, it was whatever that they put out there, it's just, well, you already know it's a mess. So, we'll have to talk about it now, but would that be a different type of material that's gonna be laid this time?
Yeah, so what we're talking about here is mill and overlay. So a lot of, and maybe even in Norwood Manor, I think there's streets that used to be concrete streets.
Yes,
And then they were blacktopped over
but that,
with asphalt overlay.
yes.
And then on some of the streets, there was chip and seal put down,
Yes.
which is kind of like a top layer. And that's what's creating the gravel that is a bit of a nuisance, right?
Yes.
And then also you have some other places and it's not just that, in Northern Manor especially, you have certain curves where the asphalt overlay layer is crumbling and coming up. You can just see down to the concrete street. And you can, that's happening on Bermuda Court as well. And then you have what's called alligator cracking or spiderweb cracking, which means that that asphalt needs to be replaced because every time it rains and freezes, the underneath is getting
Yeah.
damaged.
Yes.
Okay.
I recognize the name.
Rain freeze.
I do want to ask one question, Sam. It's something when you were talking about staffing and that halftime position for receptionist, telephone calls, those, getting people's telephone calls answered, or having their concerns, having there be some mechanism to go back and forth. Now, if 26,000 was there, is there technology that we can get that might cost less than that?
I mean, we have voicemails that we check, and we actually have a fairly, I think it's kind of a nice voicemail system. It comes to our emails, and so it's one, we can all, we can share voicemail boxes. It's really not a technology problem. I think the best customer service experience is when you call and someone picks up the phone, right?
Right.
And then they can direct you if they can't help you. And that's what we're not being able to provide right now. And we have limited staff, and so getting to voicemails, within an hour or with, by the end of the day is also.
Yeah, I mean,
Can be a
there
struggle.
could be an outgoing message that, we'll get back to you within 24 hours, and I think 24 hours would be the.
And we're also working on, we're also working on right now changing our call directory as
Got
well, because right now I think some people are getting lost and getting to the wrong place. So, we're gonna change that, and hopefully that fixes some of the issue as well.
I had, I think, some conversations with you early on about, meaning like 3 months ago, early on for me, about the possible portal that we could buy to add on to our existing city system. Do we have any idea what that costs annually?
There are different portals, and I'm sure we can find, I know there's one that they offer that's with the system we already use, and then I know there's the Laserfish.
Oh,
one as well.
Laserfish,
Yeah.
which,
I've looked-
Laserfish, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I've looked at some quotes before in the past, and I don't want to spout off a number, but it would probably be about the same as a receptionist, and I'd rather just have the receptionist personally. But, yeah, yes, please.
And also, not only is the receptionist or is the part-time administrative assistant position open for answering the phone
Oh, I
or
know
the
that.
window, but it's also for the support of code enforcement, also for anyone that's working in the administration office, will help relieve some
Yeah.
of the pressure that's there, so.
But, Simpson, I've worked with portals with student systems for years. And so being able to get some things handled and routed and get responses to people, because we really have no CRM system here, customer relationship management system, which is, email tracking, all of that kind of stuff. And they can be pricey, and I know they can cost millions of dollars to do at a university. There are some cheaper products that we might want to look at in terms of just being able to track. I mean, just like we have CaseNet where people can go on and see where they got a ticket, where all that's going to be. there may be some systems that we can look at that are based on the size of your population in the city rather than just an overall cost. So I'd like to explore some more of what's possible there in terms of, like if there's a complaint to Public Works, and we still want to work on that flow chart. What happens when this happens, which I've talked about before. But somehow to be able to see on a computer and have people be able to get stuff and have some communication back and forth. It takes time, but you can come up with a set of frequently asked questions. If you got a question about code enforcement, push this button, you have a recorded message that goes out. If you've got a complaint about this, at least that people believe, and I think it's really important, and I think it's what a lot of folks have been saying, is that we need a way to communicate to people that they're being heard.
Well, I think that's the other, I've been talking to Sam about this, we have a meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
Where we started talking about the flow chart, but I think another thing is people call, from talking to Kiana also, they call City Hall for
Oh, I
the
know.
wrong thing, and like you said, there can be messages that we can put out
Right.
first to say, like, if you're calling for this, you should do this.
Call
But the other
waste
thing is,
management, yeah.
when I have done a little bit of research and calling other cities and everything to hear what they say, and I don't think people understand, like, if you just say Public Works, they think Public Works also includes, like,
Trash.
waste management and everything like that. I think we need to have a more succinct, like, if you're calling about trash service, you should call this number. If you're calling
Right.
about an inspection, a dog license, a this, then it should, like, more succinct instead of just Public Works or just like
Yeah.
code enforcement. So then you actually do get directed to the right person instead of just leaving a message and just pressing 0 and going to that general voicemail.
Yeah, because a lot of times I'm sure you're answering the same questions over and over and over again. So if there were some way that, I mean, it takes time to build these things, but there are ways of systems. If somebody sends an email or ask a question in your little whatever portal you've got, then a set of, it's got word recognition. So if it says trash, then you could automatically have a message that said, this is the answer to that. I've built them before. I'm not about to build one now, but I don't think those are terribly expensive. So I'm gonna look into what might be able, it's gonna take time. It's gonna be take time. We'd have to look through any existing manuals or anything that we have to come up with those answers. And it would probably take at least 6 months to build, but it would be something that we could work on. And those are the kinds of things that somebody like me who's sitting at home on my computer can help you to build. Like I'm working on the code enforcement guide for citizens, so that we can work on that and say, tell people, look, we're working on this, and give them a date that we think that we're gonna launch it, so that they don't feel so frustrated about the same things over and over again.
Okay, Victoria,
Uh-huh.
I wanted to say that that's a great idea, but I am a person, and I have spoken with numerous citizens of Normandy within the 3rd Ward. We have, and they're with me on this, we get so much when you call a certain city, Normandy and so forth. It's too much telephone. We want more live individuals to speak with to get accurate information. And it's nothing more common than getting information
phones.
No, but I'm saying, when you come into Normandy, if
She
we
said she
could
wants
like
like a kiosk.
set up,
Oh,
yeah, we
yes.
come in,
in
we
the-
would have full staff time for, citizens to utilize.
That gets expensive and risky in terms of what they're.
It isn't expensive and it isn't risky because we have, for say, a police department. So, other municipalities have it, why can't Normandy have it?
Well, if you talk about like having a, I think what she's saying is, and I don't wanna put words in your mouth, but when you talk about having a computer that's unmanned, you have like the potential of data being breached and,
Well, but I'm just saying though, it's
but
not.
also
data
you gotta
being
pay for the
breached.
computers too, so,
Yeah,
Yeah.
for a laptop, which isn't that much, and
Yeah.
that could go into, Mr. Johnson, could that be, implemented with a grant,
As far as getting the hardware, that's really not an issue. I think it's just setting it up in a way that's actually useful.
I think the
So
first-
big,
yeah.
so like kind of almost what Vicky's talking about, maybe not specifically, but having a portal, because like what those cities have, you go on to the computer in the lobby, and then they have an online portal that you're logging into on the computer. We don't have that online portal part. That's the expensive piece.
isn't
I
it
have an
also,
old
like-
computer that we can hook up
I
out
got
there,
an old
right?
one that
But,
belonged to the village, yeah.
yeah, that's the one I was thinking about, yeah.
But isn't also the system like closed? It's like a closed system, so you can only access
Well,
what,
you could take it off the system, it just needs to be
Yeah.
connected to the internet, so, yeah, there's ways to figure it out, and right now, I mean, we could set that up and have it linked to CaseNet, but when you're talking, you know, I don't know how the pay
Yeah,
online
you
stuff
have,
works.
you
and-
wouldn't want a computer, you would, something like a Google Pad that could only do certain things. You don't wanna have, you don't wanna have to have a hard drive or any of those things. You just want something that somebody could come in, and you might be able to get in a kiosk form, but again, we're talking money when when we can't afford a receptionist. So getting extra hardware, we just have to think of which ways we can move. I don't think that it's a bad idea to have something that people could come in and get some answers to things. But, yeah, obviously, a human being would be best, but we don't have money for more human beings.
Yeah, okay, so, that's actually about wraps it up for what I have for this first presentation of the budget. Again, so, I mean, if you go back, I didn't touch on all the non-major funds, but they're pretty routine stuff, and a lot of them are just incorporating what I went through in the capital improvement budget. If there's, I mean, there are some fund balances in Parks and Stormwater and Economic Development Fund that we don't really have budgeted right now. We need to come up with a way to spend that money, and probably need to get the Economic Development Sales Tax Board back together to talk about some of that, and come up with a plan. But as far as the budget, we are still waiting on final numbers for insurance. We'll find out if we can switch carriers, in which case we can come back to the budget and actually have some more money to spend. The renewal may come back higher, and we have to, it may be worse. There's still a few things that we are at least a month out from knowing for sure. A couple big ticket items, so.
In terms of mitigating our risk, there are probably some things that need to be fixed. Grates missing in the street over electrical, I mean, on Natural Bridge, there's some grates that are broken, and there's wires in there. I
Yeah,
don't
we
know.
talked, we did a tour a couple of days ago,
Okay.
and Weiss is gonna cap those, and then we
Okay.
talked about, the trees that are
broken, like getting those
Oh, yeah,
those cut down, and then also the holes that are there, one of the things, like, do we fill it with concrete or do we plant another tree? And I think,
we can get free trees.
yeah, Dennis was talking about, who was it, Dennis? With the trees for the holes that are empty, for the trees that, I can't remember the,
Yeah, we may be able to get free, additional red buds
who
to
was
put
it
in.
from though? I can't remember.
We were talking to the forestry team at
Okay,
Beyond
yeah.
Housing.
Forestry
Yeah.
League gets trees away all the
So-
time. I have a brand new red bud in my yard that they gave me.
But those grates are,
Right.
I talked, yeah, we did a tour, those grates are a concern.
And then there's evidently a tree fell down on Florissant. I remember this just from hearing it from it's been broken, a few years ago. And then I think Mayor Beckman had it cut down by Gamma or somebody. But the sidewalk over on Augusta and
In front of,
Florissant.
the core
We
collaborative.
actually have a
We have
bid,
a-
and
Yeah,
that's already scheduled to be
Okay, that's
repaired.
gonna get
Right.
fixed, all right. So, yeah, we wanna do, and that's one of the things I think we should ask our residents to do, as Ms. Shivers pointed out, if we see things that we believe are dangerous, that can hurt people, then we need to make sure that those things get addressed right away.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then as far as the risk management, the reason we selected the brokers we did is they have a risk management program where they help come up with a risk management plan. So once we get through the renewal cycle here, they're gonna be helping us looking at all aspects of the city and things that we can improve on and goals we can work towards to just keep losses down moving forward.
And I'm one more question. Do we have an inventory of everything that the city owns?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll say we don't have we do have a consolidated inventory. Sometimes there's a few different spreadsheets you have to comb through. but
Right, but
yeah,
you know how many trucks you have, how many
Yes,
lawnmowers you have, all that sort of stuff.
yes.
All right.
old business, Council Bill number 24-13. Amending the fiscal year ending, September 30th, 2024. So we had our first reading on this, at our regularly scheduled council meeting, and, basically we just had to move some things around, so that is, Sam, where is this?
It's gonna kind of blend in, but it's the one that says draft on it. So, the last
Oh, I see.
15 pages. Yeah, and there wasn't any changes between the first reading and this workshop, so this is a chance to ask questions. I know we just talked about budget for an hour, so.
And can you refresh everybody about what's the?
Yeah.
Why?
Let's see. Again, the big change on the revenue side that was the cause for needing adjustment was court fine revenue was not as high as the budgeted number. And that is mostly due to understaffing in the police department and our traffic units not being able to be staffed. Had to pull officers from the traffic unit, which is 2 officers, so they can cover patrol, and that's so officers aren't working 16-hour days, right? We prioritize the main public safety mission over traffic, right? So, but it does have an impact on the budget, so we had to adjust some items. For instance, we never filled the administrative assistant position, we've talked about that at length tonight. Same thing, because there was unfilled positions in the police department, we didn't have to spend as much. And we also had some vacancies, particularly early on in the fiscal year in Public Works, that also led us to kind of cut back on that and mitigate the losses. Again, we are talking about a $90,000 deficit with this budget amendment. So we went from a balanced budget to $90,000. And that has to do, coming up short on the revenue side, it also has to do with things like the lawsuit, against Simmons Bank, which we're getting attorney fees on. But, yeah, no changes between the first reading and this.
So what do
We
we need?
need a
Motion?
motion to, approve
Nope.
council bill.
No,
What?
so,
Just a workship discussion. If there's no
Oh,
questions.
just
Oh, this isn't a resolution.
Okay, so
I
the,
thought we were gonna, we don't have to do this before the workshop?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm
We,
assuming.
we just have to do this before September 30th.
Oh, okay.
okay, so, that 90,000, I mean, what we're doing with this budget amendment, coming as close to the end of the fiscal year as we are, so we're just trying to regroup everything and shift things around so we don't have this, the deficit's not so
Yeah,
bad.
not as bad, because if we don't do that, then department heads at the end of the year are gonna look at their budget and say, I gotta spend this. Well, we need to adjust because our
Oh.
revenues aren't the same.
Yeah,
So,
do we have, I know I've been in this position before when I had budgets and, you know, year-end budgets. Yeah, okay, so what we're doing is essentially a budget swipe. I mean,
Yes, actually, yes.
So, yeah, so what we're doing is which makes department heads a little antsy sometimes, when I said money, you didn't. But yeah, it's what you gotta do when you deal with these.
And it is shared across, the only department that didn't get swiped was admin, and it's, not that we didn't make cuts, it's just that's where the attorney fees are hitting,
Got it,
so.
all right. So we'll just do that at the next meeting?
That will be for second reading and final approval at the next meeting.
Okay, all right,
Hopefully that's the last budget for fiscal year 2024.
okay.
Any other questions? So before I ask for an adjournment, just so you know, we do have a legal issue.
But we can't go into.
yeah, we cannot go into a closed session because it requires a roll call vote to go into closed session.
And she,
And
so.
because we can't see Councilwoman
We
Sugar's
cannot
face.
talk about
We
it.
can't, yeah.
So can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Is Ms. Shiver still on the phone?
Ms. Shivers?
Yes.
Yes, she's there.
I'll see her in about 15 minutes.
Mr. Yarborough is gonna come over in about 15 minutes, he said, to look at the hole.
Oh, okay. He'll see it.
Can you?
Uh-huh.
Okay. If he can't find it, can he knock on your door and you can point it out?
He doesn't even have to go through all of that. You can see it from the street.
You can see it. Can you? Okay, thank you.
Don't forget.
Thank you.
Everybody